I'm so excited to share this material with you today in hope that it may make a change for you in your life around the subject of doubt. It had such a big impact on my life that it is my absolute pleasure to try and help others overcome the same challenge. So here we are, we're at 3 o'clock and I'm going to get started. And today I thought I would do my training in a slightly different way. So I've done myself a little bit of a presentation and I hope you appreciate the colours. I love the sunset colours here. And you can see right in the middle a triangle. I've represented this training in a triangle because there's a 3-pronged approach to what I'm offering to you today. In the middle of this triangle, you will see now a very short line with what I describe as dead ends on each end of that line. And this is my visual representation for limitation. We're looking at personal limitations and how they affect doubt. Now we have this image here. This is a dumbbell, you know, the type that you hold in your hand and you use as a weight. I am going to encourage you in this training to take your limitation and gain some leverage and look at the strengths within that limitation. And when you engage in those personal strengths, something really special happens. That limitation gets stretched out. That doesn't mean that your limitation gets bigger. It means that you can breathe within that limitation. You can find space and you can find possibility. I was super chuffed when I realized these shapes made a face. And what we have is a triangle of doubt with the 3 images that I've created here. Your limitation, your strength, and what happens when you use your strength. You gain leverage and you stretch out your limitation. 3-pronged approach, 3 questions to start with. We'll start at the foundation, why doubt has the upper hand. We're then going to move on to why your limitation is pure gold. And then why your limitation can help you discover you. Why doubt has the upper hand. Here's my little visual representation. You're walking along and there's a big gap in your foundation. You fall down the gap and there's doubt ready to catch you using the natural forces of gravity. No chance, no way of coping with that. That's what doubt does. You have a limitation and it takes you down the hole and catches you with its wonderful grubby hands of doubt. So why does this happen? Well, 3 things happen when you have a limitation, or certainly did for me. This is where doubt can really get you. You take your limitation and you place it in a box and you hide it away. And then there's an imploding that goes on, like a squashing down and a closing in, making you smaller, not allowing you to expand into the truth of who you are. There's a shrinking, maybe a little bit of embarrassment that can go on here too. Doubt just loves a bit of embarrassment. It can really work with that one. And then there's the torment. And you can see here I've got this pointing finger and the letter T to represent torment. Altogether, it creates one word, and that word is hit. You will take the hit if you hide your limitation, implode and shrink into yourself, and then torment yourself about your limitation. I'd like to share a story here, and you can see a little envelope representing mail. Mail as in sending emails. I had a job way back at the beginning of my career. I trained as a software engineer and I was in a big company. And my first job was contracted into this company to sort out the training, the IT training. And I put together an email introducing myself, explaining what my job was and what I was there to do to help them. Now, I knew I had a limitation. I knew I was an appalling speller. I now reframe it. I call it a creative speller. It was in the day where you didn't have the support system IT-wise that you do now. There wasn't the integrated spell checker. I did the best I could to get my spelling correct, but the email had spelling mistakes in it. I was doing a really good job. I was getting people enrolled on the training. I was engaging with people. I'm a great saleswoman. I was able to get people to realize the benefits. And then everything came tumbling down. One of the top bosses came down from upstairs and pointed out to me how unprofessional my email was because it was scattered with spelling mistakes. I just wanted the ground to swallow me up. I shrank. I imploded on myself. And then I tormented myself with my limitation. I hid my limitation and I fell down the hole and doubt was there to catch me. I went from being hugely successful at doing the job I was doing to thinking I wasn't capable in any way, I just fell apart, and doubt had an absolute party. I wanted to share that story with you so you really got to see how doubt can have a field day when it comes to a limitation, particularly if you hide it, it implodes and you shrink and you torment yourself. It will love all of those and you will take the hit. I'd like to move up here now. Why your limitation is pure gold. So here's my limitation. And this is what I needed to do in life. I needed to find a way around it. And I found many ways around that particular limitation. One was I'm incredibly visual and pictures speak 1,000 words. So I would use image a lot in my communication. I had some sharp corners. It's quite a character. And this limitation took my corners off. A bit like putting a sharp rock in the ocean and letting it roll around in the sea. My corners were taken off. And because of this limitation, I became much rounder as a person. I also learned to deal with difficulty, with challenge. I would climb the mountain of the challenge, and this developed another muscle, a bit of grit, a bit of not giving up, a bit of working my way around a situation. And you know, back to this story of the emails, I did that. I fell apart and then I rolled up my sleeves and I continued to do a great job and sort out the training for that company. And I did not let my limitation win. And this was part of the muscle that was being developed at the time here. The corners were knocked off and I fell apart, but then I climbed my own personal mountain. So there's my gold. I can work around a problem. I'm more rounded. I've had the corners knocked off. And I can deal with challenge because of the limitation. All skills I would not have developed if I hadn't had that limitation. If it wasn't that one, it would be another one that will have developed those skills, I'm sure. So the last question, why your limitation can help you find you. if you take your limitations, let me take my spelling. You can put a magnifying glass over your limitation and it will teach you about you. And this is really important. The more you get to know about you, the less doubt has the upper hand, because knowing yourself is a powerful thing. Sorry about that. My voice is a bit croaky, needed a drink. So this was one of the things I learned when I looked at the limitation of not being able to spell. And you can see we've got triangles here and they're all facing lots of different directions. And what I discovered was I have this kind of mind that can take one thing and it can shift it in lots of different angles and positions and see something different. Or I can take something that looks the same and then look at it from different angles and realize that there is some subtleties, some changes, some differences. I can spell a word as many ways as mathematics would allow me to. To me, it's the same word. It may have a different angle to it, but it is the same word. I can see through all the distractions of it being moved around and see the same word. This is a skill that I did not realize was mine when I started looking at this. I'm very flexible. I can shift perspective incredibly easily. This image here represents patterns. I started to look at my spelling and spot the patterns. Patterns in the spelling, patterns in when my spelling got worse, patterns in pretty much everything to do with this limitation. One of the patterns I spotted, by the way, was that if I was going to make a spelling mistake, it was usually the initial part of the word that the mistake would be in. And I'm not surprised by that. I'm an impulsive person, can't wait to get started, have an impatience to me, and I kind of skip over the beginning of things. It's a great advantage. Someone who's got that impulsiveness will roll up their sleeves and give something a go. It can have a downside because you can skip past something that needs to be understood before you carry on. So another characteristic of me I discovered through exploring spelling. There's a lot going on in this image. I've got two frames and they represent me reframing a situation. And then in the middle, I've got a plus sign to represent positivity. So I get my spelling test back and I get like 2 out of 10. And then I realized, I reframed it and I realized, do you know what? I've got 2/3 of that word right. Or there's only 2 letters that I got wrong in that word. So I reframed it and found the positive slant within it. And there was a real plus to doing that. This is what enabled me to spot the patterns in my spelling, where I was making the mistakes, where the weakness was, where my strength was. So from my limitation of being a poor speller, I realized that I have a mind that can shift and swap and turn perspective. I have a mind that loves working with patterns. I'm able to reframe things with a positive slant. Next set of questions. The first one here. What do you need to do to have the upper hand over doubt? Well, the first thing you need to do is to stop hiding it. And I'm going to take that limitation and place it back where it came from, back to its rightful space. Now, it's not a lovely straight line. There will be a step down and a step up, but I filled the gap. I've owned my limitation. This will take away the arrow and and enable me to do something with the doubt. And I'm going to take a line. You know, I found this so easily when I was practicing. There we go. I got my line. Straighten it up and place it over the doubt. So that's the first thing I needed to do. The second thing was to turn my arrows around. They didn't need to face inwards and implode. In fact, they could do quite the opposite. They could face outwards. And instead of imploding inwards and making myself small, I was doing quite the opposite. By turning my arrows around, I was expanding outwards, and this I that stood for implode, it now stands for something quite different. It stands for I, me, you. I'm going to stand right in the middle and I'm going to expand out and be who I am. On to the torment. Job number 1, get rid of that pointing, accusing finger. And I'm going to change the T into a different kind of T. And the T I'm going to be using here is one with 2 arrows. Oh, that's a 1 arrow. I thought I'd try something new today. I was telling you how flexible I was. I thought I ought to demonstrate it and do something new. So here we are. Here's my double arrow. So I'm going to take that T and I'm going to change it into a different type of T. I'm going to turn it into a T junction where I can either land in myself and expand, or own my story, have it as my foundation and walk ahead. So to recap here, what I have done is I've stopped hiding the doubt, stopped hiding the limitation, put it back where it came from so I can walk ahead. I can then remove the arrow that pointed down to the doubt. I could cross out doubt because I could walk straight across without falling down the hole. I turned the arrows around and instead of imploding, I expanded into the I, me. And then I turned the T of torment into a T junction where I could connect with I and own my story. When I can do all those things, doubt has no place. On to question number 2. What do you do with your gold? I tell you what you do, you cash it in. And this is one of the ways I cashed in my gold. I took my ability to work around a limitation. I took my ability of being rounded, having my corners knocked off. And I took my ability to overcome challenge and I added them all together. And I use all of those to help my clients on my Doubt Out program. This is a little picture I drew to represent Doubt Out. The sun's rising over the hills. And I do that for my clients. I help them develop that flexibility muscle to move around what they see as a limitation. I get them to recognize that we can get stuck in the corners and actually we can get rid of the corners and work with the circle. And that we are capable, they are capable of climbing their own mountain to their own summit. So I used my gold to help others. I also took the skills I developed, the gold, and I used it as leverage to overcome doubt. That going around the limitation, I use the same skill here to go around doubt. You know, doubt wants to stop you, wants to stop you in the tracks, but I go around it. I'm using the same muscle, the same flexibility. Doubt also likes to get you into the corners. Well, I've had my corners knocked off, so I can remove that. Let's see if I can make that happen. And I just work with my smooth round circle, and doubt can't put me in a corner because I don't have any. And finally, I can take this very same challenging skill here and apply it to doubt. Climb the mountain of doubt and stand on my summit. I'm the one in charge. I hope you can see that in this picture. The last question, what do you do with your self-discoveries? Well, I use them. I use my ability to shift perspective, to see patterns, to reframe. I add all of these together so that I can help my clients on their doubt out program that I've created for them. And I also use my ACE card. When I do that, I have the upper hand over doubt. Doubt is quite a trickster. And these skills are superb for doubt. So doubt says, look over here, and you look over there, and then it pops around the corner and it's got a different mask on and it's facing you in a different way. But I have this ability to shift perspective, see things from different places. So I can spot doubt, even when it does shift positions. Pattern spotting. When you get into a place of doubt, you can get into fixed set patterns that get you stuck. I can spot those patterns, and once you've spotted them, you can change them to a more helpful pattern. Reframing. If I can take something that I have doubt over and reframe it with a more positive slant on it, what happens is doubt loses its power. So I hope you've followed me with this journey to realize that the limitation is far from it. It can have gold, and it can teach you lots of things about you so that you can play your ACE card. This leads me on to my last mathematical sum, which is what this whole training was about, was to take your limitation, take your strength, that strength looks very big in this equation. It's not an equation, it's a sum, but you know what I mean. There we go. And then you can take, this is what happens. I'm going to move to the other side. You take your limitation, you add your own personal strength to it, and then that limitation gets completely stretched out so that you can breathe and you can see its potential. When you can do that, doubt has no place. And then you play your final ACE card. And this is mine. This is me in my gold dress. When you can take your limitation, add your strength to it, you can stretch out your limitation. Doubt gets, you get rid of doubt, doubt goes, and you replace it with you, the genuine, the person you really are, owning your doubt and your gold at the same time. I hope you've really enjoyed this training. I've loved sharing this with you. I'm going to check to see if there are any questions. More than happy to answer questions. Let's have a look. Hi, Lizzie. Hi there. Let's have a look. I love that. There's a quote here from Dirty Dancing, one of my favorite films, by the way. Nobody puts baby in the corner. No, they don't, Lizzie. Absolutely right. I don't want any of you being put in a corner. This is your opportunity to look at your limitations and see the gold within them and find out something about you. And you can use those anywhere in your life. And you can use them to actually take doubt out